Well, I would say good morning, everybody, but it's good evening. We are recording Joseph Lee's show today because he is being called out to go out of town tomorrow. So he graciously came home from work real quick for us to record his show to air tomorrow morning at 7:30. Joseph or
Yes,
Mr. Lee, how's everything going for you today?
busy as usual, but good. Good, busy is good, but uh, tomorrow going to be dealing with a serious situation that everybody knows about in Uvalde. So I've been requested to come out there and provide some support services for a particular organization, which I can't name, but I will be in Uvalde tomorrow providing services.
Yeah, and the hurt and pain is I just want to say it's going to be decades because them kids that was affected, it's going to be affected for life. I can't say it decades, but they're traumatized, and a lot of people will never understand that because they've never been in their shoes. But I mean, it's awful that some kids have to sit down there and live with that for the rest of their life.
Well, I think people forget sometimes because we've had so many unfortunate situations of shootings that the healing process uh, doesn't end when we stop talking about it on the current event news, right?
Yeah,
Something that's going to be long lasting. I mean, for me to get called, and this isn't my first call, but again, remember, I think I said on the show, I just couldn't get myself to go there immediately after because I just didn't really uh, see what I could say. I know the therapeutic things to say, obviously, but I hadn't seen enough change happen. And sometimes people need to be in unrest when things like that happen. And I think we've far past the breaking point in this country of action being taken. So now that the police chief, I believe it was, that was let go,
yeah,
we've got some traction, and I can start to point out some of the evidence of change, right? That will maybe help to memorialize the horrific tragedy and push the country to now start actually taking some action steps, right? But
yeah,
I just couldn't face the people of Uvalde after been doing this for years. I mean, I started getting into crisis care work after Sandy Hook, and one of the things as a therapist, if you can't manage your own anger and grief, you can't really be of service to people that are going through that directly affected. So now I can kind of say, okay, I see some change. We've been pushing on this show, and I've been pushing the community. A lot of people have been pushing in the community. Celebrities have been pushing, and now we're starting to see some traction. Now I can go and say, hey, okay, now we're starting to see evidence of this hard work and making law enforcement, making the community make some changes on how they deal with these situations. So I'll be over there to provide that support, directly there. Now I've supported here in San Antonio people that are affected. People don't understand that too. There's ripple effects, of people directly affected by this because there's people that had family members here in San Antonio and organizations that had leaders that had people directly related to that situation. So it's a mess, and it's a horrific situation. It's one of the hardest things I have to do as a mental health practitioner.
yeah. And they I think Uvalde starts school next week, if I'm right, from according to the news. They're getting a later start than most school districts here in Texas. I just want to touch base on the length of time it took for them to get everything was not straightened out, but start ironing out some things. In the beginning, they jumped to conclusions to me too fast. Then they backtracked. Then there's silence. There's nobody saying anything. And they want true transparency, but they have to really just let mainly the family know what is going on to keep them in the dark. And the council meetings they had behind closed doors and families sitting there, anger just bubbling over. You can see it in their face. And it's not really anger, it's disappointment and hurt that I see from the family members. And it just boggles the mind. And then they had that pony show, I'm gonna call it, as they're handing the families checks and all that. Found out, I'm just saying, found out it was bogus because none of the families down there received anything. and they won't receive anything till November, they're saying. So I'm just saying, I'm tired of certain people jumping on the bandwagon saying we're gonna do this, do that, we're gonna help, and nothing happens. What the family don't need is more disappointment. And that's what they've been getting is disappointment after disappointment. The healing starts when things start reaching out to them. Once they start reaching out to them, we're here to help you. Once the help comes in, then that's just my opinion. The healing process starts. So, am I in the right direction?
Well, I think you already put money where your mouth is when you went down there for the Christmas and was it Christmas in the summer? What was the program?
In July?
Christmas in July, you know.
Yes.
And you know, I thought that was a phenomenal thing because you know when you have something like this happen, and you know, and I just want to back up a little bit because you know the grieving process is different for everybody. There's anger, there's shock, there's you know, there's frustration, all those feelings that you mentioned is what they're going through, despair, you know, everything. So you provide that ray of hope in July, and the people that are actually sending real tangible things to those families. And I can't think of his I can see the name of the football player that paid for all the funerals, but I can't think of his name right now. I don't know if you can think of it.
No, yeah, it's on tip of my tongue too. I can't
And
think of it.
I'll maybe try to look it up a little bit, but that is the type of thing that makes the difference, you know, in terms of showing that you care, you know, coming out and providing services. You know, my hats off to all the folks that, you know, went before me that were able to, you know, push through and provide, you know, counseling services right in the immediate aftermath of that. But you know, you're in the ballpark. I mean, it's a long process, but action speaks louder than words, you know. And unfortunately, you know, when tragedies happen, they're the worst of us that try to take advantage of
Yeah.
those situations to try to get some type of either monetary gain, exposure, you know, profiting off of it in some way or whatever. But you know, it's just sad. You know, it's just sad to see folks do that. But there are people that look for tragedies as opportunities. I remember when Katrina happened. You know, there was all kind of scams that popped up. You know, and all kind of crooked things, and people had dire need at that time. But you know, it's and what happens is, and what makes me upset about it, frustrates me about it, is when you have all these crooks and criminals out here, it makes other people hesitant to provide support because they don't know if they're going to be, you know, if their support is going to actually go to where they intend for it to go. So I would love to see some serious laws enacted federally for scammers and folks that, you know, are taking advantage of people at their worst time of need. I mean, you know, we need to have some unprecedented time and
Yeah.
unprecedented fees when you get busted, you know, hurting people like that. I mean, you know, we've just got some really, you know, twisted individuals, put it like that, that would do something like that at times like that. But then we've got great people like yourself and like others that are going. And generally, the first thing is to see how you can bring your talents, gifts, treasures, and really help those people that are adversely affected. And that's what makes us great as a country. You know, that we usually can pull together at times as well.
Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to the organization that I helped out. It's called All God's Kids with JD Terrell and Bridget Dickens. They will be celebrating 10 years of doing this in October. And they came up with the concept Christmas in July, and I was all for it. And we need more organizations like that sit there and they really care about the kids. They left, put it this way, when they left from down there, they had some toys left over. They left them there for them to hand out to the kids that didn't show up. They didn't bring it back. They left everything there.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's good people out there, and there's also people out there just out there. When you brought up Katrina, I remember at that time that I had a home improvement business. And when there was a flood here in San Antonio, people from out of state came in and started taking the insurance money, and then taken off. So they gave home improvement business a bad name. So I got out of it because when I went over to somebody's house, well, can you repair for this? I said, no. Well, they took my money. I felt bad, but I'd have been lost. I've been broke if I did everything. I mean, I did help some people out, but like I said, there's people out here can't wait to take advantage. Like this student loan deal up right now, people taking advantage of that. So, it's, I guess, mental illness hit everybody all type of ways.
Well, I don't know if that's mental illness. Some people are just they don't have the morals, and they're
Yeah,
opportunists, and they will look at any opportunity, uh, to take advantage of people. And I don't want to dwell too much on them. I'd rather dwell on the positivity, but we do need to note that they're out there.
yeah,
And I think everybody can do something, where we can hold these politicians accountable, and push for more realistic, red flag laws or stronger red flag laws, linking mental health more at law enforcement in terms of our diagnosis of suicidal or homicidal ideation, and how we deal with folks that
yeah,
present that type of stuff and their access to weapons. There's some commonsensical things. There's some forums that we need to be having, and more importantly, there's some actions that we need to take. It's very serious. We're kind of getting into more of that a little bit later in terms of what's going on right now and how we're going to maybe have to intervene on the irrational things that are going on. Bo Jackson, that's who it
and
was.
so Bo Jackson. Okay,
Yeah, Bo Jackson's. Since we brought it up, I like to,
yeah, there you go.
get the actual names and information out there.
Yeah,
But that's again an example of how you do what you can to make a real change. And I know that I've done a lot of grief services, and I found my files for San Antonio.
oh,
Because I call myself organizing myself, but just to give you an idea of the need. Here since I've been in San Antonio, I can't show the information. These are the cases and the collateral. Each one of these are cases that I've had to respond to. And this is back when we were doing it all electronically, right?
yeah,
So this is mental illness. This is depression. This is anxiety. This is grief. And there'll be another one of these for tomorrow when I go to your valley, right? So and that's how you have to review the situation and all that stuff. But each one of those is about 8 or 9 pages of the case and the collateral, just to show you, the need that's there, right? So it's real out here, right? So just imagine that's just San Antonio area, and I'm just one therapist, one organization. Imagine in all 50 states, how many people are going out, and how many things have to be dealt with and addressed. So we're in a serious time, and that's our segue to the political fiascos that are going on. Before the show, we started talking about something that Trump said today. Apparently that was on Yahoo. So, we can blame Yahoo if that's not accurate. But this guy is still calling for
he is
a
demanding.
re-election.
He is demanding seeking reinstatement or a new election immediately.
Right.
That's what he put out. Also, Graham put out if the ex-president is indicted, there'll be riots in the streets.
Well, and I think that's dangerous for a couple of reasons. First of all, we need to look up what delusional is. In this book here, the DSM-5, delusional has a specific criteria. And, the criteria for delusional mindset, you can look it up, you can Google it. I'm actually looking at it right now because I don't feel like going to my DSM-5. But the diagnostic criteria for a delusion, I'm reading it right now. You can actually go to theravive.com and look up the DSM disorder for those of you who want to look at it, which is in the DSM-5 is DSM-5 2.297.1 F22. The criteria is a diagnosis of delusional disorder requires the presence of delusions of at least 1 month duration. The patient must never have met criteria A for schizophrenia, which means delusions must not have been accompanied by most types of hallucinations, disorganized speech, incoherent derailments into tangents, grossly disorganized or catatonic behavior. Flat effect, right? So basically, these delusions, there's a lot of them, grandiose delusions. There's a criteria. Just take a look at it. But when you think that you can have a re-election, and you actually put that out there, and there's never been one done in the history of the country, but you are, and then we got to look at the diagnosis of narcissism, to think that the whole world, the whole country is supposed to revolve around what you want and what you think. We've got some serious mental illness going on with the previous president, right? And I don't know what doctor diagnosed him as not having mental illness, but, you know, almost a criminal, you know, for him to pass a mental health evaluation. I don't know. If he really believes what he's saying, then there's some delusional thought process, narcissism, pathological lying, all the above, right? You can look it up. I'm not his therapist. I'm not diagnosing him, but I guarantee you that I could get those 3 things and diagnose him and bill insurance for that if he was my father. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I can provide enough evidence over the period of time that he's been in the political sphere for all of those diagnoses, which says something about not just him, but the people that still are following behind him and rallying behind him. And I don't know if it's just the mental illness part, because what Lindsey Graham did is something very similar to what Trump did when he said to the Proud Boys to stand by, right?
yeah,
It's a double message, right? You know, of course he can say, no, he wasn't really telling them to stand by, but yes, he was telling them to stand by. And then he actually gave them the marching orders on January 6th on what they were supposed to do. So Lindsey Graham, which has flip-flopped from when he was running against Trump to calling him diabolical and what his exact words, you know, a race baiting, you know, person that's going to destroy the Republican Party, to then January 6th saying he had enough, to now saying there's going to be riots in the street if the natural evolution of what's going on ends up in an indictment. So he's saying there's going to be riots in the street. So in that way, he's trying to, I believe, not just say, of course he would say, no, I'm trying to prevent it, but he's giving the marching orders. If he gets indicted, riot in the streets, right? So, you know, nobody's tricked or fooled by that foolishness, right? And if you are, just think about it. Just think about the ramifications of somebody in that sphere, a senator, saying something like that, when in actuality, I forget the newscaster that said this yesterday, said, no, it's not going to be any riots in the street. There wasn't any riots in the street when he lost the election. They organized something and coached them and encouraged them to act out on January 6th. But there wasn't any massive riots in the street because I think most people are realizing if you do that, what the outcome is going to be, right?
yeah,
But to even suggest it to people that are mentally ill that will possibly take that rally call as a personal invitation to do that, you know, is very irresponsible and very ignorant. The other, and also, I'm starting to wonder if we don't have some elements of betrayal and treason in our country that we're going to have to deal with. We have, you know, you can't call these folks the party of law and order anymore. You've got Governor DeSantis now trying to think about how he could possibly protect 45 from being extradited if he does get convicted. Look, you can't have 2 sets of laws in this country for everybody. If the president committed a crime, which those of us that are in the military know about top secret information, the care that's supposed to go on with that, and you got that at your estate, even as nice as it is, it wasn't secure. And if that's a crime, then he has to be charged with it. Because the problem is our judicial system is supposed to be blind, not stupid. Now, we know it's not colorblind. And we can have a whole segment on how laws have been unequally administered to people of color for the same offense. If anybody wants to talk about that or challenge that, I invite them to write it in, and we can have a whole segment on how that plays out, right? But justice can't be stupid. It must be equitable, or then justice becomes straight oppression. So I'm going to give a prediction. Not only is 45 going to be indicted, he's going to be convicted. He has to be, or the judicial system then becomes a tool of oppression. You can't, because then what could any president do if he's not indicted and charged? And if he actually took these documents out, unfortunately, he's going to be, and we know that they did, he's going to be indicted. I mean, I don't know what the penalty is going to be. That's for the courts to decide. But, the world is watching. And, either our system is going to be considered legitimate or it's going to be considered a joke. And there are ramifications to our country be considered a joke in terms of our laws and enforcement. Internationally, how can we convict people of war crimes when we can't convict our own president for crimes within our own borders? I don't know if anybody's thinking about that, but we're talking about charging Putin's military and Putin with war crimes. How can you punish? What authority do we have as a country to convict somebody of anything if we can't even take care of the convicts and criminals that are in our borders? Because we like them, or who likes him? You know what I'm saying? Or he's popular, and he's not a popular president. I don't know who likes him. This isn't a reality TV show. This is reality. And I think I saw on one of these many news channels I watch, now he's starting to ask questions about, am I really going to be indicted? Yes, you really are going to be indicted. Yes, you really are. And Governor DeSantis, you know what? Let them all stand up and see it stand in the way of justice. They can all share a cell together. You know what I'm saying? Because no state right is ever going to trump the federal laws. We tried that before. States have tried that before. We had a civil war before. And what happened? Federal wins, right? So, at the end of the day, reality's got to kick in at some point. And those that were doing wrong, and I hear the argument, oh, well, Hunter Biden and Hillary Clinton and her emails and all that. Look, if they committed a crime, they get investigated too. Everybody, be like Oprah Winfrey. You get a judgment, you get a judgment, you get a judgment. Everybody gets a judgment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying they shouldn't be tried and convicted, but there are levels to crimes. Top secret documents are most sensitive secrets, and people that are out there with their lives on the line, and you got somebody, with this information in a room at a golf course.
But then we don't know if any of them documents got out. We don't know that.
I think that's what they're establishing now, right? They're establishing what the threat level was to that information have gotten out. The fact that it was there and it was not secured properly, I'm just using deductive logic. Don't you have to assume that some of that information has gotten out?
Yeah.
And if you find any evidence of it, then you really have to charge somebody with espionage or treason if that information is found out. Now, with the technology tracking that I'm sure that we have, there's going to be a way to find out if some of that information got out. And didn't we have the president go over to Russia? Not the president, but 45, go to Russia and actually leak some top secret information in a loose lip conversation?
Yeah.
That caused us to pull assets out of certain areas? Isn't that treason right there? See, here's the problem. When you have ignorant people in positions of authority that requires a high level of knowledge and experience, if they commit that crime, I think there's something in the law that says ignorance of the law is no excuse. You chose to be president of the United States, and you did something that could be considered treasonous. You get charged with treason. Period. If you don't want the responsibility, don't sign up for the job. I'm a therapist. If somebody goes out and commits suicide and I miss the fact that they had suicidal ideation, that's why I have to have the insurance, because I can be charged with that.
Yep.
Okay. This man held the highest office and he made some critical errors. And so far, he's been able to hang out in Mar-a-Lago. So it's about time, as Martin Luther King said, for justice to roll down. It seems to roll over many other people and maybe not even be just. But I don't care who you are. If you commit the crime, you do the time.
Right. Now,
that's it.
This is going to be a segue going a little backwards. But I remember, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago. I've been knowing you that long, Joseph. So
and I'm getting old, Ron.
Yeah, we had a round table, and I set Joseph up. He'll tell you that I set him up. I said all the time, man. I said, can you give me the definition of a cult? You remember that?
I did.
Yeah, and he gave me the definition of a cult. And I said, so that's what Trump is, the cult leader. And now there are people out here, even fellow Republicans, are saying that the party has turned to a cult. And one man by himself pretty well destroyed the Republican Party.
Well, Lindsey Graham predicted it. But he's a part of the Republican Party. And because of the popularity that he had within a large segment of the Republican Party, you saw politicians bow down because they knew that, like Cheney just experienced, this radical right has taken over the Republican Party. And subsequently, some would argue, has destroyed it. Now, there's a war within the Republican Party, but you know, I kind of consider Trump to be kind of like Frankenstein, right? For the Republican Party. They were dying, right? But they had this creature that came to life that was a monster, in a sense, to our democracy. But he brought the Republican Party back to life. But look what came to life with it, right? And now they don't know what to do. Now, Frankenstein, if you follow the story, he actually had a good heart. Not so much possibly with 45, right?
Yeah.
He knows kind of how to manipulate. He knows the power of manipulation. But I think he's got some issues. I mean, his own sister that has the same life, was a sister-in-law, or maybe it is a sister. I think it is a sister. She's an LPC. She's a licensed professional counselor, like me, that gave the similar diagnosis that I gave: the pathological liar, narcissism, all that type of stuff. And nobody was listening. You know, so they didn't. There was an opportunity when he was being impeached to get him out because of mental health concerns, but somebody was able to be paid off and say, "Oh no, he's fine." Now they've got to deal with this because the office provided him protections, and part of that protection is the perception of legitimacy that he has. He's hiding behind the shield. That's why we're still talking about executive privilege. If you're not an active president, you don't have any executive privilege.
Exactly.
Right? That's like me working at, I don't know, I'm just giving the only example I can think of. That's like me working for McDonald's. Then I stopped working for McDonald's, but I still want my employee discount. I mean, I used to work for you. I can't get my employee discount. No, fool.
Yeah.
You don't work here anymore.
It's just like insurance. If you work for a company, you got insurance, and then you turn around, you're not with the company anymore. You go to the doctor, you're going to use the insurance. I'm sorry, that insurance not working right here. You don't work for that company anymore.
Well, and you surely can't take the recipe for the Big Mac home.
Oh, I know the recipe. They post.
I don't work for McDonald's, but I'm gonna take this recipe home.
Yeah.
And I think people have got this whole thing twisted. Not only did he take it, but what was the intent of him taking it? Think about it. You're not the president anymore. I know you're not the president because you're not in the White House anymore. You might want to be. There's a whole lot of people to get fired and want their job.
Yeah.
But you can't take the government's documents, because here's the thing. Here's the reality. I know this is a foreign concept to a lot of people, but the president and all politicians are public servants. I don't remember giving him the right to take private documents that could affect my security to his house in Mar-a-Lago. Did you?
No.
Okay. He's a public servant. He's not a king. He's not a part of an authoritarian rule. He's in the wrong country for all of that thought process. He's not even liked by most people. He might want to be liked. He might want to be the president. He might want all this stuff. There are a lot of people I work with that want a lot of different things, and a lot of them are institutionalized right now because it's crazy. But so be it. 45 right now is still walking around free. I doubt that's going to be the case for too much longer. Justice has got to roll forward, or justice no longer becomes justice. And if it's no longer justice, then what is it? If it's not equitable law, at least in some realistic sense, then it is oppression. How are you going to roll me or you in court for a violation, and you got somebody that's supposed to be the representation of this country getting away with the most egregious things? Either the Justice Department is a Justice Department or it's a joke. But it's a joke that won't be funny. And I know some people that work for the FBI. I know some people that work for some of these agencies, and they take their job very seriously. Why? Because their life is on the line.
Yeah.
See, I thought about this, in some countries, every male has to serve in the military for 2 years. I think Germany has that, where every male has to serve in the military for 2 years. If I'm wrong, let me know, call in, whatever. And just want to take a section to thank all our folks in North Carolina and California that will be tuning in.
Oh, that's right.
Have you guys, and we'd love to hear from you. But I think that's the case, that you have to serve, and being a veteran, you think of things differently after you've had your life possibly on the line in the service of country. When a person can reach the highest office of this country and be in command of the military but never served, you have some gaps in your understanding of responsibility and duty. And I think that's part of what we have here. I think Trump thought this was a reality TV show. Kind of consistent, right? You're fired. You're fired. He was firing and hiring people, and
he was, wasn't he?
And the people that seemed to last the longest were the ones that didn't know how to tell him no. So if you wanted to stay in the circle, you find a way to execute what this man wants. Reality TV show, mob boss, authoritarian, whatever you want to call it. That was the mindset that he was operating under. But see, now he doesn't have authority. So he's like the mad king, right? I demand to have another election. So how would that work, Your Highness?
Well, actually, if he was a king, he wouldn't demand anything because he's still a king.
No, kings demand a lot of things. Come on, don't you watch Game of Thrones, man? Come on.
No.
You got to get on that. You got to get on it, man. Kings demand a lot of things. But here's the thing about being a king. You only have as much authority as the people give you. Because the moment they decide not to follow your command and take you out, you're no longer king. You're only a leader if people follow you. If you're not following you, then you're delusional.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I don't follow delusional people.
You know, I'm gonna bring this up. I want everybody to watch this movie. I've been pushing it. It's called Don't Look Up.
Yeah,
If you if
I've
you
got to watch it. I've been, it's on my to-do list, but I haven't had
yeah,
a chance.
if you watch that movie and what's going on today at its present time, you would scratch your head and say, really? Because you
There's a
don't,
couple movies that bring up some interesting points.
yeah.
That if you look at them as not just entertainment, but look at it in the, I remember this movie, The Purge. I don't know if you've seen that movie. But before the last election, The Purge had some shocking parallels, I guess I'll put it, into what society could become, or maybe already is. Right. But you just have to look into that lens. Like if you look at the criminal justice system and you think about The Purge, there's some interesting correlations for those that can see it.
Right.
You know, with our current society. So, you know, I had to stop watching some of these movies because I'm like, oof. You know, it's kind of, you don't need cable, man, in my profession. If you ever want to not have cable, just become a therapist, right? Because you get reality TV every day, you get
Yeah.
bored, you get, you know, scary, you get drama, you get joy, you get everything, you know. And that's my wife. She always wants me to watch a reality TV show. I said, what do you think I've been watching all day?
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Reality TV.
You know,
This is unfiltered. You know, this is raw right here for you. So, you know, it's interesting.
I'm just thinking that if people will watch some of these movies, they be able to see from the outside looking down and seeing like, oh man, it's like that. They need a reality check. And if you watch certain movies, like you said, you go, really? Is that what we're doing? Sometimes it takes that to see what's happening.
Well, you know, one of the great things about our country, I don't know if people have thought about this. I know a lot, I've talked about it. A lot of people have talked about this, is that we give our actors, comedians, musicians free reign to put information out there through their art form to make us think. So I'm really looking forward to the music, the movies, the comedy, the stand-up comedy. Cat Williams, you know, really had a brilliant, I don't know where people stand on Cat Williams. I went to go see Cat Williams, and I love Cat Williams because he speaks to a large demographic of folks, and you think that he maybe is silly and you know, have some things that aren't culturally really what they should be, but he actually entitled his tour World War III before the war in Ukraine started, right?
Yeah.
And there's some really interesting things that he brings up that are very brilliant, regardless of what you think about him as a person. Look at what he's saying, and I dare you to not only laugh, but you know, go, "Ooh, my goodness, this is interesting that he would choose World War III." And he even said that he didn't even know that the war in Ukraine was starting, but art sometimes imitates life and gives warnings to what's coming. And sometimes that lodging in the subconscious will cause some people that maybe even want to support a lunatic to go, somewhere in my mind, I know this is wrong.
Yeah.
So I just got through laughing at something that scares the hell out of me, frankly. But I don't see it being a reality. Then you see something that kind of correlates with what's going on in your subconscious. And you go, yeah. And I'm hoping for that to happen, you know, here soon. We've got to speak to a lot of these folks that are listening just to their pockets. We got to speak to their subconscious and their conscious to possibly get them to challenge their actions before things get worse. Because I can tell you of 3 people, and I can't think of the president of China. Maybe you can think of it, but there's 3 people. One of them I just gave you. They are really happy that we are this fragmented and about to be at each other's throat like this. And that's the Putin, Kim Jong-il, and the president of China.
I think his name Xi or something like that.
I'm not even gonna.
Okay.
I'm not even gonna try to say it because I don't know. But I do know their political stance, and you got to think about it. Look at the stats. I think Gun Violence Archive has the stats on gun violence here in this country, and basically they don't have to even have a war with us if we're willing to destroy ourselves.
Because we're imploding ourselves.
Yeah. So why do you think Putin spent so much money in putting, Trump in front of us as a leader? Because he knows that's going to fragment the society. And if we're fragmented, he doesn't have to worry about us as much, right?
Yeah.
And then Kim Jong-il, he can fire off the little missiles he's got down there as much as he can because we're too busy fighting amongst ourselves. So that's the danger. I don't know if people are thinking about, like, a country as strong as the United States, nobody's stupid enough to overtly attack us. So they have to weaken us from the inside. And that's the part I'm really concerned about.
Yeah.
In terms of all this, all these folks out here with guns that are listening to these subliminal and overt narratives that they're being given to riot in the streets if somebody gets indicted, who most likely should be indicted. That's the problem that I'm concerned about.
And then my deal is who they gonna riot against?
The system.
The system that told them to go out and riot. The same system.
The system that they were very happy with when Trump was in office is now the system that they want to destroy. The folks of law and order now are the people of lawlessness because they didn't get their way. I don't think that's how law is supposed to work. Yeah, I'm not, a lawyer or anything.
No.
But, I thought that's what made us the what they call it, the beacon on the hill, is that when your side loses, we would go, okay, well, we'll just move on to the next election and fight that way.
Exactly.
But that's the cancer. That's the shift that is going to have to be addressed. Trump and his minions don't have the right to determine or change what's beautiful about this country. He's just a blip in the history of this country. And I hope it's a blip that we learn from and does not have to cause too much angst or bloodshed because of the foolishness that is being laid out here, the delusional thought processes.
Yeah.
And the reality is, and I just, there's a lot of things that you can call Trump, but remember, we called him a couple of things too, right? And, I'm not saying this, but I remember a couple of people out here in the communities and different communities that they will tell folks a particular gender anything they want to hear and pretend like they're doing what they're doing for their best interest. Now, there's a particular person in the community who does that. They usually dress real flashy. They perceive to have a whole lot of money and protection. But in actuality, all they're doing is exploiting people and exploiting the people that they're supposed to be protecting. And when it comes down to it, they're going to protect themselves and leave them incarcerated or whatever, unless it's to their financial benefit to get them out of prison.
Yeah.
Now, what's that word that I'm talking about? Who are those people?
I'm not going to say because I might get in trouble.
No, look, if I've described the bird, then you called it what it is.
Yeah.
What is it? I might not look like I came through the hood, but I did.
Yeah. Hey,
and I also came in the upper middle class environment too. But there were con men, pimps, hustlers.
Yes. Politicians.
Another P word.
So,
and you figure out who the what do the pimps have? They have another P word.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that.
Okay. We ain't gonna say it, but look at the mindsets.
Yes.
Now, that's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go back when we were talking about the government, and I listened to Boberg and Green and the rest of them talking about you do not want the government telling you what to do. You can't trust the government. I turned around and looked dead in the camera one time when I said that the government, you are the government. We elected you. And now you telling us don't trust the government, but you part of the government that you tell us not to trust. So how's that working for them?
Just look at the history of Lindsey Graham. Look at his stances from running against Trump to now. And just think it through. That's all. Look at what's going on. And I think that, people will be able to at least see the hustle.
Yeah.
If you really want to. Now, I think people are starting to wake up a little bit more. I don't know, because we'll know in November if people are starting to wake up. At least that will be a little bit more of a sign. But I don't know what these movie directors are going to do, because reality is getting just as exciting and scary as some of these horror movies out here.
All they got to do is have a camera crew go around the country taping and put a movie together.
And just listen to some of these people talk.
Yeah.
What they think. It's like, man, you know how you watch a movie and you go, oh, this is not going to end good.
Speaking, when you said movies, as the day goes on, you said a day go on, Friday was based on something that happened just one day. Just one day. Friday was just based on that.
That movie was ingenious. I highly recommend those of you that are looking, that don't know much about the African American hood or community, to watch Friday.
Yeah.
And it's going to be comedy, but there's going to be some real things about
how it is in the hood.
And that was a long day, right? But that's how it is when you get caught up in some mess.
Mm-hmm.
That's how long the day feels, right? when you wait, when you done just messed up and you got to try to figure out, or you got somebody chasing you or about to hurt you.
Yeah.
Some of you in the suburbs, y'all don't know about that life. Y'all ain't never had nobody threatening to kill you or come at you or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could say it. I have had somebody, threatening to do me bodily harm, and I didn't even know the person.
Yeah.
Didn't even know what I did, but the word got out, and I was like, "Oh, really?" That was my Fresh Prince experience. My grandfather, get him out of there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now, what about the people that can't get out of it?
Yep.
That's you either learn how to fight, and sometimes fighting ain't even it, because he wasn't coming to fight. He was coming with firearms.
That's right.
So, that part of the hood, you wonder what happened in Chicago and all that. Well, I know a little bit about what possibly could be happening in Chicago. I'm not from Chicago, but I understand hood mentality.
Yeah.
And there's subcultures within a culture. But anyway, we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of help that needs to be had, and we've got some mindsets that have to be changed. And I think, politicians, they are deserving of some of this, reckoning and correction. But somebody put these folks here.
Well, we'll find out how much work we got to do when November 8th come around. We'll know what we need to do for the main election in 2024.
Yeah.
But
hey, history is watching. And, I hope that people do not want to find themselves on the wrong side of it, because there are ramifications. People don't like to make the comparison of certain parties and Hitler and Nazi Germany, but I think there are some parallels that are undeniable. And if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. I know people have heard that before, but just think about it. When people were being carted off to Auschwitz and Dachau and these concentration camps, there was a narrative that was out there said, "Oh, we're just relocating these people."
Yeah.
And when the smoke started coming up from these places, they were still pushing that narrative. Oh, it's just, we're just relocating these people. How many people were being relocated to where? Now, if they were being relocated to Dachau and Auschwitz and all that, those areas could only geographically hold so many people. And if they weren't coming back home and they weren't going somewhere else and they weren't sending information back to their loved ones, come on.
Yeah.
So how many situations do we have to have happen where we're going to allow a delusional thought process and we're just going to buy whatever politicians sell because we're in a rough situation and certain people have been demonized? How many wolf tickets are we going to buy as a country before we go, you know what? It's you that's the problem. It's not all these other people that are crossing the border just trying to survive. It's not all these other people that are destroying our country. It's the criminal mindset that we allow to run and pay our politicians off and just give whatever soundbite that people want to hear.
Yes, exactly.
Those are the folks, just like, you were buying all these weapons to protect from the enemy that you're raising in the house. And you're leaving a lot of times the guns open because you're thinking there's an enemy coming, and it's the enemy that you're feeding.
Right there at your kitchen table.
Right there at your kitchen table. That's the person that's going to possibly shoot you and then go out and commit crimes, like in the case of Uvalde, where I'm going tomorrow. That's exactly what happened. So we got to look in our own situation as families, communities, as a country, and it starts at home. It starts in the mindset.
Yeah.
Start having this discussion. Stop seeing each other as us and them and see us as a us, and that we're connected, regardless of our color, creed, whatever. Look, I don't think a gunman necessarily chooses if a Republican or Democrat when he's pulling the trigger.
No.
Now, they might pick a certain area that they assume would be mostly Democratic or people of color. But, I don't think they're polling to see where you believe. It's just crazy people doing crazy things based off of the three things we've been talking about every time we have this show: greed, fear, and phobias.
Yes. And I'm glad you said greed first, because that is the number one thing is greed.
It's greed. We're in a capitalistic society. So just look at where the money's going and look where the money's coming from and who's receiving it and what their stance is. Yeah. That's all we got to do. Just, that's it,
That's
and,
it.
don't, and what's that saying now that, hey, we need more mental health folks. Okay, that's good. But if you're not going to listen to the mental health folks, it's just like any other thing. If you go to the doctor says, take this medication. And you go, well, I went to the doctor, but I'm not going to take the medication. You're not going to get better.
Exactly.
You're going to get worse. In fact, don't call me if you're not going to listen. I'm going to tell you something. Do you know therapists will fire people? Newsflash, we don't have to see you. and if I don't see traction, if I don't see the goals being met that we're setting out, I'm going to let you go. Because you maybe have to hit rock bottom enough till you want this help and you want these theories and you want these tools that we're setting up. So that's why I didn't go to Uvalde, because I didn't know what to say. We haven't learned anything since Columbine. We didn't learn anything since Sandy Hook. We're getting worse. And then you want to send a mental health practitioner to say what? Here's the grieving process. No, sometimes you need to be outraged to make things happen.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that the outrage that happened in Uvalde did not have an effect on the legislation and the changes that are starting to happen in this country. My God, it took Uvalde to happen for that to happen. It didn't happen at Columbine. It didn't happen at Sandy Hook and hundreds of other shootings. Why did it happen? Because you got an organization, which I'm not going to say, putting billions of dollars into the political process to say, it's not the gun, it's the person. Well, I don't know. If it wasn't a gun that was connected to the person, you wouldn't have had the situation. That's just common sense, right?
Well, you said it. Common sense.
It's not common. You know, hey, our saying, what have we at our time?
Oh, we're there, but
okay. Well, remember what we said. Your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying.
I like your slogan. It's not a slogan. In your commercial. What was that you said in there?
The youth can't relate, right?
Say that again.
That's for the youth. You know, that I came up with, because what I noticed at that time when I came up with that slogan, a lot of organizations were sending kids to therapists that kids couldn't relate to, and they were like, "Well, Joseph, how are you effective with the kids where this therapist may not be?" So because the kids can relate to me.
Exactly.
I went through some of the stuff or a lot of the stuff that they went through. So when they see me instinctively, they know, hey, I can listen to him because I would like to get some of that success that he got. And then some of these other tools can be utilized in counseling. So counseling may not take if the youth can't relate. Now, there may be some people that can't relate to me, and I get that. So go to somebody you can relate to, and hopefully they'll be effective, and most likely they will be if they're licensed, and you can get it from that messenger. I'm not here for everybody. I don't care. And see, here's the other thing. With these awards and degrees and all that stuff, and years, I've been in this game for 15 years as a therapist. I don't care if you like me or not. What I care about is being effective. In fact, I like some of my clients not to like me. The kids that are acting out and all that, I love it when they don't like me. But they're going to respect me because of what I've accomplished, and I'm going to demand that they respect me because somewhere that military side comes out. And then I'm going to give them something they need. And they can take it, and I'm going to give them that tool, the tools they need to be successful, to think critically, to be proactive in their thought process. And that's what I'm hoping. When I do this show, I'm hoping some people will take those tools. You may not like me. You may like me. I guess the numbers, I want to thank everybody for getting our numbers up to what? I think it was like 1,000, right?
Yeah.
But listen to what I'm saying. And if it makes sense, great. If you agree with it, great. Tell somebody else, all right? Or challenge it. Give me some facts. But here's the thing. If you're going to challenge something I'm saying, come with some peer-reviewed articles, not just what your friend said on TikTok, Twitter, or Instagram, because that means nothing. Some research. And you might end up agreeing with what I'm saying. But if you don't, come with some research. Because both me and you, Ron, have invited people to challenge us with what we're saying. And if I'm wrong, which I can be, let me know so we can put the stuff out there in the correct way. We'll give you the credit of changing our thought process, and I'm open to it. You're open to it. But if we're not wrong and we are right and we're challenging your beliefs, at least pause on your action and reconsider your stance. A democracy is contingent on an educated populace, not one that is popular, not one that is on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and all that. No, education. And I dare to say, a lot of this stuff out here is garbage.
It is. Yes,
It's
it is.
garbage. It's not, but, and you taking garbage, and because you're saying it to somebody else who doesn't know that they haven't done the research on it, it sounds more valid because it's coming from you and they care about you. But if you're going to speak it out of your mouth, make sure it's not garbage.
Amen to that.
That's all.
All right. Well, that's good to close right there, Joseph. I tell you, wow. So you be headed out tomorrow. Let everybody know this show is pre-recorded because Joseph will be out of town tomorrow. We like it when he's live, but I tell you what, when we air this tomorrow, I'm gonna be looking at all the responses coming back, and we'll use that for the next show. Responses coming back because they love it. They love to ask questions. Because last time you was on live, I'm sitting there watching the feed, and there's questions coming, asking about this, asking about that, and sometimes you answer a question before they even ask it. Like you're in their mind.
What I would like to do, all the kids now are back in school or going back to school. I would like to talk about some of the things that I usually, when I consult with the school, some of the things that I tell schools to kind of watch out for and work with counselors, work with administrators, board members on how to have a successful school year, right?
Yeah.
From the mental health corner. And, you know, it's good when we can be proactive and avoid some situations. So I would like to, you know, kind of talk about that the next time, but also fielding whatever questions. And if there's some questions related to school, if you have a child that gets, you know, has to have a 50, I think it's a 504. I have to look it up, but it's a special ed diagnosis. There's some things that need to happen with that. And there's some things and some processes that need to go along with that in terms of accommodations. So we can ask some questions, get some information out there, and you know, hopefully have a good school year. I am requesting one thing though before I get in, because we can't wait. I've done this myself, and I'm talking to people about this. On the weekends, pray for your child's school. Go to the schoolyard, whatever. Pray for your child's school. Cover your child's school. Cover your child. I'm talking to the believers now. If you don't believe, maybe you should believe. But if you don't believe, well, you should believe. But if you don't believe, for the people that do believe, go and cover those schools. Pray for your children. We're going to get into a little bit about the study I've been looking at, doing some research on what schools do not have active shooting situations.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit, but just in advance, I would like to see some folks going and praying at their children's schools. And if you don't have a child in school, that's okay. Pray for some other kids, schools and other kids. And you know, they can't stop you from coming to the parking lot on Saturday, you know, and praying. Yeah. You know, and if a police officer comes up, you just sit there and you pray for these kids, you pray for that school, and you cover that school. And I believe in prayer. Matter of fact, I have some studies that can show evidence of prayer in counseling. That's when you go to my website, there's a spiritual counseling side of it, because it's well documented that prayer helps in whatever modality of counseling that we're using, right? So please do that as a request from me, and hopefully we can start to turn this curve of violence in these schools.
Okay. All right, Joseph, we said a mouthful, and like we always do, we go over, but that's okay. we all we do, we get to the point and put it out there. Joseph, I appreciate you coming on board and getting in here real quick and getting this segment recorded to get it out to the people. You be safe down there.
Will do.
And we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for everybody watching and listening. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.